Because there's nothing more powerful than organized, unified, positive black men. Because even the issue that happened here is only because of the forced absence of the black man. And so when black men are not around, as my man Bobby Imhotep says, my mentor, my teacher, Bobby Imhotep says, when black men are not present, boys run amok. And so black men have been forced out of our community. 1 in 3 black men going to prison. 70% of our homes ran by single mothers. Our black man is not able to be a man. But when we come together as black men and we step inside this community and we are present, we are giving them another definition of manhood. That to be a real black man is not to be a real To be a real black man is not to sell drugs and ride and die for your block, but to be a real black man is to be as our ancestors were, as Marcus Garvey was, as Honorable Elijah Muhammad was, as we have been. And when we stand out here, we give them an option and we show them that this is what it is to be a real black man, and all the other stuff is whack. We all we got. We all we need. Come on.
It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
The Minister of Wellness Ministries and Rock Newman Show 2.0 return to the nation's capital Saturday, September 16th, 2023, Union Temple Baptist Church. This is your final opportunity to join us in person before the official start of the viral outbreak season. To get empowered to quickly lose weight, reverse disease so you can be 100% confident your immune system is ready for anything that may come. Come hungry, because delicious plant-based soul food and desserts will be available by DC's own Dr. Ruby Lathan. Space is extremely limited, so RSVP as soon as possible at theministerofwellness.com under Health Seminars. That's theministerofwellness.com under Health Seminars. Please call or text 888-847-8026. That's 888-847-8026.
Welcome to the Rock Newman Show 2.0. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. And I would say right now, we're bringing you a program that is going to be one that you would want to share with your friends. So call them up on the phone right now and tell them to tune in the Rock Newman Show 2.0. And I think you will be glad and they will be glad that you did. I often say this, but it still bears repeating. I started doing this phase of my journey 10 years ago in 2013. And I started right here where I am now at 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue. And that has relevance. I wanted to be here. We had some options about where we could do this show. And I chose 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. And I was very sincere and unapologetic about having an agenda. So many people have a radio show, TV show, and there's the talk is cliche where folks say, well, I don't really have an agenda. You know, I'm just a sort of objective. I call balls and strikes. Well, I ain't objective. I wanted to showcase the best of what the black community has to offer.
That's right.
And I'm going to say this to you right now. Today's guest is someone that I, as a 70-year-old gray-haired dude, that I want to emulate him. He's a young brother out of Baltimore, Maryland, who's doing some very special things. And I would like, from this platform, to play a role in helping to export what it is that he and his team, his family is doing in Baltimore, which has gotten an incredible reputation as violence-ridden, impoverished, downtrodden, hopeless area, fairly or unfairly.
That's right.
That's how it's been characterized. And this young man, through the force of his nature, is helping to try to change that narrative and save some lives. Chairman Elijah Miles, welcome to the Rock Newman Show. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, sir. It's an honor to be here. Honor to be here.
Well, we are honored to have you. Now, if you see this slick uniform that they have here, the Tendea.
Right.
It's the Tendea Family.
That's right.
And tell us about the Tendea Family. Tell us about what inspired you to do what you're doing. And then we want to get into that you are doing.
Mm-hmm. So to talk about Tendea Family, we have to go back to 2015 when the Freddie Gray verdict came out in Baltimore City. And after that was the Freddie Gray riots, the Freddie Gray uprising. And what happened is that during that time, Baltimore's a small city. We don't get a lot of attention. We don't get a lot of focus.
No.
But when Freddie Gray happened and then the riots and the uprisings took place, we in Baltimore saw all the cameras from around the world to come to Baltimore City.
Yes.
CNN was there, MSNBC was there, all of the so-called civil rights leaders and legitimate civil rights leaders was in Baltimore City, was in West Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And we in Tendea Family, most of us being college students at that time, or just 18, 17-year-olds, we felt like, things gonna change. Because everyone's here, because all this motion is around Baltimore City, things are gonna change. But it was because of our disappointment after all the cameras went away, after all the civil rights leaders went back to wherever they came from, that we saw that Baltimore City's black community didn't shift, things didn't change. And we said in that moment that it's not gonna be a moment that changes Baltimore's black community. There's not gonna be a protest, there's not gonna be an uprising that just make things better. There's gonna have to be consistent effort day in, day out from a group of black people, not for a day, not for a moment, but for years to come. And that's gonna be the thing that shifts Baltimore City. And so from that moment on, from 2015, we started building, started working, started organizing with like minds. And what inspired us was that this work, we're not doing a new work. We're not starting in 2015 to do something that never been done before. We see ourselves as accepting the torch that's being passed down. So we're greatly inspired of the organizations that have paved the way for us in the past. Those being the Black Panther Party for self-defense, those being the work of the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X, the Black Power General Khalid Abdul Muhammad, and so many other people. We're greatly inspired by all the efforts, whether in the nationalist community or the non-nationalist community. Martin Luther King, Ella Baker, greatly inspired by all those people that came before us that have sacrificed for us to be here. We're inspired by them. But then lastly, I'll say, we feel like we owe a duty to them. That they put in all of that work so that we could be here, so that we're able to do what we're called to do now. We now owe them something back. And more than just owing them, we owe the future generations yet to come, black people that's going to grow up in Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore City, Philly. We owe it to the future generations to make it so that things are a little bit better because we all lived. And so that's what inspired us.
So one of the things that made me know that I wanted to sit here with you was looking at your philosophy and seeing that you were not rooted in a particular ideology or a particular group, which, you know, I think we too often now are in one group or the other.
That's right.
And, you know, that old saying that I grew tired of, you know, is, you know, crabs in a boiling hot barrel, you know, where you just mentioned traditional, non-traditional organizations. And what I hear is a certain wisdom that you are taking from all of them, trying to impact the community that you love.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So we say all the time that there's some people that love Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There's other people that say, no, I like Malcolm, or we don't choose between Malcolm and Martin, because Malcolm and Martin both sacrificed for us to be here today. So we learn from both of them and try to emulate their successes and avoid their failures, so that we're able to make a greater impact for the next generation. Because ultimately, they both, no matter where they are, they want the work to go on, and they want black people to be in a better place. And so we obligated to do something to continue their work. And so too often we try to pick between Martin and Malcolm or Garvey and Du Bois, instead of taking them all as our ancestors and carrying on their work. Yeah, and you know, I'm telling you, it more of late than before have I come to understand better and to appreciate the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's right. You know, as a leader. So you know, the work that you all are trying to do makes me reflect back on the work that he did and how he was trying to clean, how he was successful. He was successful. He was successful, he is successful. In cleaning up and getting the community and getting the black folks off of the street and eating right, getting away from the drug, getting away from the anti-social behavior and all of that. So tell me, if you would, give me an example. Let's say today, we're taping this show on Sunday, July the 16th. About a week or so ago, 30 people got shot in Baltimore. What was the news from Baltimore that went around the world? 30 people got shot, 2 people got killed. Now, mainstream media likes to blare that antisocial behavior. That's because there is an agenda. That's right. To make us look more violent in all the 5 deadly ways that black folks are portrayed. When that happened, what was your reaction? What have you guys been talking about how to try to impact that? So when that tragedy happened, 30 people shot and 2 people killed, we were devastated, and we wanted to make sure that we knew exactly who was responsible for all the different dynamics. I think the police department of Baltimore City just had a conversation with City Council, and the police department admitted that though they had various 911 calls to be at this block party that had over 800 of our youth out there, they didn't respond. They didn't put police there. There was things that could have been put in place and done to avoid this tragedy, where guns were out and things were happening. So that was one aspect of it, that we felt like that the government, the city government and the police department have to take some responsibility and accountability for the tragedy that happened. But then also, we went straight to what can Tendea do? And what we did was we made sure that one of the families, because it was a 18-year-old girl that was killed. Yeah. And then there was a 20-year-old young man that was killed. Yeah. Both below the age of 21. And we took up the cause to make sure that the funeral expenses of one of the young people was paid for. Because on one side, within 24 hours, the young lady that was that was killed, her GoFundMe, I think supposedly had $15,000, but I think they got over like $17,000 within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. But with the young man that was killed that was 20, when young black boys are killed in Baltimore City, we now have this idea that he must have been doing something. Yeah. He had to be in the streets in some way.
Yeah. Must have been doing something wrong.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so we took up his cause to make sure that the funeral expenses are being paid and that his family is supported during this time. But going forward, what Tendea is doing, we're a movement that's fighting for the uplift of Baltimore City's black community. And what we're doing is continuing to recruit and train other young people, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, that are ready for Baltimore City's black community to be better and ready to sacrifice and do the things that it takes to make things better. And we take a similar approach to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad took. Even though we're a non-religious organization, people that come into our organization that may be on Percocets or drugs or alcohol, we put them through a training process, a rites of passage process, so that they may give that stuff up, because that's necessary to be effective and impactful in changing Baltimore's black community. But it's so much that can be done, but it's going to take a movement of us. It's going to take unified, organized efforts. Right now, the whole Baltimore City is hurting. And for those that are connected with people in Baltimore City, they're hurting too. Because if there's 30 people that were killed, 30 youth that were killed, that's 30 different families, 30 different friends, 30 different uncles and aunts that are all impacted. And right now, we're continuing to try to raise this money for the young man's family, but then also find out who else wants to do this work, is ready to do this work, and ready to not just talk and tweet and Instagram, but sacrifice, boots on the ground, and do community patrols to make sure our community's safe. Step up and be the men that we're called to be, protectors, providers, servant leaders, not just for self and family, but for the black community. We're trying to find out all of those people, young men and women, black, that want to do this work and organize them so that we're able to make a greater impact on our community.
When was the Tendea Family formed?
2015, in the aftermath of that Freddie Gray uprising. That's when we said, man, we need to create an organization.
Yeah. Now, have you headed it from the beginning?
Yes, sir. But it's some founding members that's in the room. The cameras can't see. It's some founding members that's in the room. From that
because
point
at that point you were, how old were you then? 15 is 8 years ago, so you were 19, 20 years old.
Yep, 19, something like that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. What was it in your past that gave you the sensibility and the sense of responsibility that who?
That's right.
Yeah, in the house or beyond, inspired you to take up that mantle?
So that's a great question. I grew up like a regular black boy living in the hood in Baltimore City. And my whole identity...
Do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
You said I grew up like a regular black boy in the hood in Baltimore City. Explain that.
Okay.
Explain that for me.
So growing up in the hood in Baltimore City, you see a lot of things. You see the violence, you see the drugs, you see the police brutality, you see the vacant homes, you see some of your elders on drugs and strung out on drugs. You see young men selling them drugs. So you see all of these different things when you're growing up in the hood in Baltimore City, but if you don't know nothing else outside of that neighborhood, that's your whole identity. And so when I was growing up in that neighborhood, my identity wasn't black. It was this block, this neighborhood, this who I am. And it wasn't until middle school that I had a great teacher. Shout out to black male teachers. I had a great teacher named Mr. Scott. And Mr. Scott...
What's his first name?
James Scott. J.V. Scott. And he was at a school called St. Ignatius Loyola Academy. It was an all-boys school.
Okay.
And Mr. Scott, I never met a Jamaican, so Mr. Scott had these locks that was like natural, free-form locks, and so I thought he was Jamaican. But he had this red, black, and green flag on his desk. And I remember one day in middle school, 7th grade, I asked Mr. Scott, and I said, Mr. Scott, whose flag is that? And I never forget, he was on his computer, and he stopped what he's doing, and he turned to me and said, Elijah, that's your flag. And he began to break down to me what this flag was about. And he said the red is for the blood that our ancestors have shed during slavery, during segregation, all that.
Yeah.
The black is for the color of our skin, and the green is for Africa. But it's not just for Africa. It's for the lands that we have to create and form and build, and communities have to build today. And from a seventh grader, that blew my mind. Because I had no concept.
Yeah.
I had the loyalties to some blackness.
Didn't have that consciousness
Yeah.
at all.
But
That was the dominant seed of your consciousness.
Definitely. And he began to build on that. He started making me do papers. And mind you, he's a math teacher.
Yeah.
But he started making me do papers on Malcolm X and read this book, Man, Child in the Promised Land, Claude Brown. Read Richard Wright, Native Son, and Black Boy. And so he began to change my life.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I never really was that good in school, but I had a purpose now that was beyond being a football player or a rapper or a basketball player. I had a purpose, and it connected it to my people and said, man, you not only can do something great, but you need to do something great for your community and for your people. And that radically changed my life. I remember growing up in Baltimore City, you seeing like violence and things, and I would come in and talk to Mr. Scott and be like, you know, complaining about the neighborhood, and he would always turn it back on me like, Elijah, you could do something about all of that. So this Mr. Scott was in 7th grade, was the one that really began to lead me down this path and planted that seed. And it took some time. I was still rough around the edges, but I never forgot that the stuff he planted in me when I was in middle school, and it just grew and grew and grew to what I'm doing now.
You talked about Man, Child in the Promised Land. That is the earliest book that I read as a 7th grader. That kind of, I think, well, I was a huge Muhammad Ali fan, so I kind of developed some consciousness from him.
Yeah.
You know, and but man, I remember I've not been a great reader of books. I don't do that much, but I remember not being able to put that book down, folks. And if you've got a son, especially in the house, that you know you want to help turn on some lights, let them read Man, Child in the Promised Land. It's a very, very fascinating piece. Claude Brown, Howard University graduate. It's a fascinating piece if you haven't done it. Do you think back, just stay with that book for a moment. Do you think back, do you look back on reading that, and does any one particular thing stand out from Man, Child in the Promised Land?
The biggest thing that stood out for me is that whether it's Sonny and Man, Child in the Promised Land, or Nathan McCall and Makes Me Want to Holler, or Malcolm X in the book, Mr. Scott always offered me books of black boys that were in situations similar to me. And so even though it was talking about New York, I was like, man, this is my life right here. This is my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that was the real thing. He always connected me with books that I identified with.
The value of a qualified, committed teacher.
That's right.
I've just recently did a show on educators, on black teachers. And I cannot emphasize enough the value of black teachers that it can have on black kids' lives. And your testimony about that is a very clear example. So what's been some of your biggest hurdles as you're forming this organization to try to make a change?
One of my biggest hurdles that comes off the top of my head is the fact that I'm young. So it's one of the things that attracts, let's say sometimes a media attention, is the fact that I'm young, but also the greatest hurdle is the fact that I'm young because when it comes to an organization that's militant and organized and structured, you know, a lot of people that's maybe older don't want to take instructions from some 20-year-old guy. And so we have a great program and platform and goals and things we're going for, but sometimes it's the structure and the accountability that comes with that people that are a little bit older than me, or even around my same age, sometimes struggle to accept. The fact that we have a chain of command.
Well, let me tell you something, man. As an old head, I want to say to you, don't be deterred. And I know you're
That's
not.
right.
I already know you're not, but I just want to say that because you're gonna hear that. There's a lot of territorialism where people want credit.
Yeah, that's right.
Even if they ain't doing the work. And what I hear you talking about, you and your organization, you're prepared and committed to do the work.
Yeah, and can I add one thing to
Please
that?
Please do.
One of the greatest hurdles is that we are living a time of faithlessness.
Okay.
Like, we do not believe that things can change.
Yeah.
And some people say, man, God can do all things.
Yeah.
But Baltimore City, that ain't gonna change. Chirac, that ain't gonna change. DC, Black DC, that ain't gonna change.
Yeah.
And so we have to go over the barrier of faithlessness. So everything that Tendea is doing, from community cleanups to work with the youth to families, a lot of black people will be like, man, what you doing that for?
Yeah.
It ain't gonna do nothing.
Right.
It ain't gonna affect anything.
Right.
And so one of the greatest hurdles we have to jump over is faithlessness. Is everybody feels that, man, everything has been done before, so what can you do now? Ain't nothing to be done.
Yeah.
So we have to come back to some faith. Some belief. I'm not even talking about religious faith. I'm talking about belief in ourselves and our own organized abilities to shift anything in our community that we see and want to have shift. We the people that overcame slavery and segregation, but yet we get into Chirac and Baltimore and say, things can't change anymore. We're done for. So we've been fighting with people to get them to believe that things can change so that they be willing to sacrifice to make a change. But you can't win a war with soldiers that don't believe they can win. So that's been one of the major difficult parts, is that we really are in the era of faithlessness and hopelessness. And I would say to people that are aware, that know history and read things, we got to be careful with gloom and doom teaching. We're telling people that, nah, man, things will never change. And so, and being so, I don't know, pessimistic about the progress we felt should have been made that wasn't made, that we don't discourage the next generation. And this is for people that wave red, black, and green, or, that read 1,000 books on Africa. Like, we got to be real careful with the gloom and doom teaching, because the young people out here need to be told that you can make a change, and you can shift things, and you can push for change as the ancestors before us did.
Folks, in case you tuned in late, my guest today is Chairman Elijah Miles from Baltimore. He is one of the founders and is leading the Tendea Family in Baltimore that is endeavoring to make a difference. You just talked about get back to some faithfulness. I want to drop this in somewhere. I'm googling on YouTube, whatever, TikTok, a while ago, and I saw Cornel West. Cornel West now has thrown his hat in the ring to run for president.
That's right.
Cornel West made a comment that stuck with me. It was that in spite of all the evidence to the contrary, he had to remain a prisoner of hope. So when you talk about the faithfulness, So that, and I think what you're talking about is indeed remaining a prisoner of hope. If you do that, you start to overcome the lack of faith.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you said something in your first comment when I asked you about the 30 people that got shot. You said there were different dynamics. I thought that was insightful, because no act like that doesn't have several. You don't commit an act like that and there not be several components to it. You immediately had the sensibility to talk about the power structure, the authorities, the government, the police, whatever, who had knowledge of this event going on, who, if they're not sound asleep 24/7, had to understand the potential for something to jump off like that. And my God, if ever there's a situation where a pound of prevention, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, that would have been it.
That's right.
Now, how do you feel your relationship is with, because here's a difficult thing for an activist, especially activists who have a sense of militancy, is to be able to maintain credibility in the community, but also to be able to have influence, impact, and a relationship with authority. How do you feel you guys are doing with that?
I can say that I think we do a good job being in between, keeping balanced in between those two things, because it is a real thing. Sometimes people in our position attack the city government, the government in general. But for us, we have a black mayor, Mayor Brandon Scott, that I believe is sincere and doing a great job and striving to do right. Even though when mistakes happen and people are impacted, things have to be said. We have a governor, Wes Moore, that I believe is doing a great job. I don't have any evidence that he's not striving to do right by black people. So we do our best to not attack black leadership, legitimize black leadership, unless they do things that is so tragic to black people that it forces us morally to say something. Too often, the media uses people like a Candace Owens to attack all black leadership. It don't matter who. We try not to play into that, and we try to understand the situation that they find themselves in as politicians, and support them when they need support, and hold them accountable if they put themselves in positions that we were forced morally to hold them accountable. But we have great relationships with our city council people. We have great relationships with senators over the districts in which we work. And we try to maintain those relationships, but we're also careful not to morally compromise ourselves. We're never so close to senators and politicians and judges that we can't do right by the people and hold them accountable if it's necessary. So we definitely want, but definitely we do pay respect and pay honor and create relationships with those with political authority. And I think from the past, learning lessons from the past, we didn't oftentimes do that. The nationalist community, the militant community, they usually look at anybody that are in politics as a coon and a sellout, excuse my language. And then on the other side, there's other people that is completely connected to establishment. They're in the establishment's pocket. We try to be balanced in that and try to do what we can and do the best we can by black people. And if that means working with a politician to get that job done, if that means working with philanthropy to get that job done, we'll work on all sides of the board to get the job done, because the solution is more important than everything else. Than
the ideology, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, and so now, well done, well said, man, and keep on doing what you do. Now, when it comes to, I'd like to, for you to share with us, if you've had this kind of experience where, whether it was a gang member, whether it was a drug dealer, whatever it might have been, if you've had an opportunity, had the occasion to step to some folks in the street that were doing harm to the people you love and that you're trying to help, have you had those occurrences? And if you give me an example, of you or some of your family here, maybe approaching folks who are practicing antisocial behavior that's harmful to the black community.
So I could give you a couple different examples. We do a community cleanup every Sunday, mostly in the McElderly Park community in Baltimore City. And so when we're at a community cleanup in one of the hardest neighborhoods in Baltimore City, sometimes we're in the midst of things. So we're serving people that hands are swollen because they on heroin and things like that. We're serving people that may be in the streets, may be out in the streets. And so what we first try to do, I'll say this, is we first try to offer resources. We have resources available. If you want job opportunities, we want to connect you with a job. If you want addiction service, counseling and addiction services, we want to connect you with that. But then also, doing that work in the city has earned us what you would call some social capital, so that when things are going wrong within the neighborhoods and the places that we work, we can get people off the hook because people respect us. So we had a situation at our community cleanup recently where a young man that was doing the community cleanup with must have had robbed somebody for their phone, a young man for their phone.
Right.
And these are the issues that cause violence.
Sure.
Because that young man you robbed has family.
Sure.
And so that family came to the community cleanup. Those boys came to the community cleanup. And to say it frankly, they was ready to kill this man.
Yeah.
We could clearly see that they had guns on them. We can clearly see that they was ready to hurt this person. And he said, because y'all are with Tendea, we gonna let you slide. And so we need organizations that position themselves in that type of way that you're able to save a life because you've earned some clout within the streets and doing the work. And so we was able to rectify that situation and talk that situation down.
If I can stop you there, because folks, I don't want you to miss a very poignant statement. Dude stole a phone. Other brothers came to get some retribution, to quite possibly kill somebody. And the work that Tendea Family is doing saved that life. So when I say to you, as the gray-haired elder, I want to help, I want to replicate in my community and where I live and inspire people near me that I might have some influence with, to start something like the Tendea Family, to have an impact. That's what I'm talking about. Please don't let that go over your head. What's more important than saving a life? What's more important than conducting yourself as the Tendea Family in Baltimore is doing, in a clean, committed kind of way to try to make a change and to save lives?
That's right.
Let me ask you this. What is the source of when you do this kind of work, you need gas in the tank. You need
That's
money.
Right.
You need money.
That's right.
How do people connect to you and contact you, and what heretofore has been your ability to attract funding?
That's a great question. So to answer the first part, to connect with us and contact with us, www.tendeafamily.org, Tendea family.org. You can reach us also, for those that's on social media, Instagram, to see the work that we do day by day, Tendea Family. And we accept PayPal, we accept Cash App, but we are a 501c3 legitimized nonprofit organization. And so we're able to accept donations. You get tax-deductible donations. And the way we have attracted funding has been a couple different methods. Is one, by putting in work in the community, like boots on the ground. We've been able to attract regular black people and other people that say, I'm willing to give $10 a week. I'm willing to give $25 a week. I'm willing to give $50 a week to support your program. And that has been a great help. We pay youth, like between the ages of 10 and 18, to come out to that community cleanup and be trained in community organizing. We give them $50. So every Sunday, we're dropping over $1,000 on some Baltimore corner to youth to keep them away from out the streets and get them to be the leaders we want them to be. So that's one, is community support, which we continue to need in order to be independent and self-reliant. But we also take grants.
Yeah.
We will apply for anything that's out there.
Yeah.
We say it to ourselves, we don't care if the money come from aliens. We'll take it. But the important thing is for Tendea is our goal is to not ever be relying on grants. We'll take the grants,
Sure.
but we don't want to be reliant on grant funding, because I may say something on this show right now that may make it so that Tendea Family never gets another grant dollar. And we have to be able to continue to do the work. So we say all the time that black funding over grant funding. So we need the community to support organizations like Tendea Family or the organization in your community or in your city that's doing great work, because you don't know how much freedom it gives them to do the work that they're doing and pursue the change they're pursuing. So we got philanthropy, we got like regular black funding, we sell clothing, we sell banana breads, we sell smoothies. We sell everything we can get our hands on. So we also involved in business and social enterprise to be able to fund the work. Right now, we're looking for a location for our, our headquarters.
Yeah.
We raised $150,000 to be able to make a headquarters within our city. So we're looking for...
You're looking to raise that, or you already?
We already raised it. We've already raised it. We're looking for the
$150,000.
location right now to be able to do that. And part of how we was able to raise that money was because of senators and politicians that earmarked money for us. To say they doing great work. Yeah. Let's get them some funds to support their work to do this headquarters. Right. So these are the things. These are all the different methods we use to gather things. But self-reliance is always, and independence always has to be the goal. We have to be moving towards, having organizations like Tendea, not just fully funded, but more than fully funded, so that we able to hire people, because people need jobs. We able to build things, because we have to build things, not just do work, but build institutions, businesses, land, schools that teach our kids who they are. We have to build these things. And those things take a lot of money and take a lot of support. I'll lastly say that I believe strongly that every black person, young, old, or in between, should be given 10% of their check, bi-weekly, monthly, 10% of their wages to a black organization that they believe is doing the work need to be done. That could be a church organization, that could be a religious organization, or that could be a grassroots organization, a nonprofit, after-school program, but 10% of our checks should be going to a black organization so that we can help people to do the work on another level.
So I get, feedback every now and then from, some folks that I know, in the sports world, celebrity world, or whatever that might be. I'm gonna call some names, and they Baltimore names. Let's start with Carmelo Anthony. Yo, Carmelo, Tendea Family.
That's right.
Could use your support.
Yes, we can.
Near and dear to my heart is Steve France. He didn't necessarily grow up in Baltimore, but just down the road a little bit. Juan Dixon, your aunt's running for mayor again. You want a safe city for your aunt to be able to try to govern? Tendea Family.
That's right.
Could use your support. So now, and y'all, if you hear this, when you hear this, then talk to your friends.
That's right.
Who signed, the $100 million contracts, and let them know about what Tendea Family is doing, and that you want to grow an organization that is trying to save lives and make Baltimore a much better place.
That's right.
To live. Tell us about you have a group of people here. Tell us about some of the folks that you've got here, sort of what their functions are and what they've been doing, and, just call a name and let us know.
Okay, so we got, starting with Lady Captain Tyson. She's in Tendea Family, we have a brotherhood and we have a sisterhood. The sisterhood is called the Duafe Sisterhood. And Lady Captain Tyson is the leader of the Duafe Sisterhood. She runs all of the women programming that we do, women and girls programming that we do. So every week we do a sisters dinner that serves black women and girls to make sure that they know who they are and their responsibility to their community. Asada said that a woman's place is in the struggle, and so she makes sure that black women are served and that they got what they need. We have Lady Lieutenant Aina, who is lieutenant of the Duafe Sisterhood, but she does a lot of our bookkeeping, accounting, development, as well as running a squad of sisters within the Duafe Sisterhood and making sure that the sisters that join Tendea Family are developed. We got Jessica that just came around, and Jessica from DC, from around here. She's in the recruit process to become a member of Tendea Family. But right now she helps a lot out with our cadet program, our youth program, and helping specifically with the girls and helping to develop the young girls we got. We got Ty, our sister Ty, who is the warrior woman of the Duafe Sisterhood. She makes sure that the women are not just protected and leadership is not just protected, but she makes sure that Tendea Family is respected by outsiders. But then also what I say about Ty, she is our communications coordinator. So she makes sure internally that everybody's communicating and that there's no cross wires, but then externally, making sure that how we communicate with families and youth and keep up with everybody that volunteers for our program. Ty makes that happen. Brother Ihani is not a founding member, but he's close to it. He came in around 2017. We were founded in 2015. And Brother Ihani, member of the Coben Brotherhood, he's been doing great work when it comes to security, when it comes to that manpower, because I don't care how people view the work that needs to be done in black communities. You're not going to be able to get it done without strong black men that's willing to play a protective role within the community. And Brother Ihani has done a great job from the time he's joined Tendea Family to do that, and also pull other brothers to do the same. The last two brothers we got is Brother Xavier and Brother Winfield, who are both in the recruitment process and joining Tendea Family and are ready to sacrifice time, money, energy, effort to do the same thing that Brother Ihani does when it comes to protection, community patrols, making sure the sisters are safe and protected, that we don't have a Carlisa Hood situation, not on our watch, and they've done a great job. And there's so many other great black men and women that are part of Tendea Family that are not even in this room, that are back in Baltimore City doing various things, and we shout out to them and value them for all their work. And for all the future members of Tendea Family that may see this video, shout out to y'all.
Man, good job. Good job. I think it's give yourselves a hand, y'all. Y'all out there, give yourselves a hand. You know, I think in part the value of your doing that was to share with our audience, you know, the realness of this, you know, that you got an organization, you got people in this organization who are committed to the vision.
That's right.
You know, and needless to say, the vision is for the betterment of black folks in Baltimore. And if you make life better for the black folks in Baltimore, you make the city better.
That's right.
And I will say to you, those who are tuning in, give that information one more time in terms of how somebody can reach you and how they can donate. So
if you want to reach us, the direct way to reach us is tendeafamily@gmail.com, to email us, TENDEA family @gmail.com. On Instagram, we are Tendea Family, all one word on Instagram, TENDEA family. And to hit us up on PayPal if you want to send us some gift on PayPal. It's our email, tendeafamily@gmail, TENDEA family@gmail. And our website, lastly, is www.tendeafamily.org.
Brother, thank you so very much for coming here today, man.
Sir.
I'm telling you, I want to stay in touch with you. I want to see your progress. You're doing the right thing, and I could not be more sincere about encouraging all of you to look at this example. Hey, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's right.
You got a wheel right here that's working, that's making an impact, and is saving lives. Study it and duplicate it in your own community. Again, thank you. God bless you. And thank you, all of you who are listening, who are watching what we're doing. God bless you, and I'll see you the next time we bring you the Rock Newman Show 2.0.
It's a wrap.
Good job, man. Good job. Thank you, guys. I'm glad every one of you came.
Yes, sir.